The summer of 1942 burned with an intensity that mirrored the fires of war engulfing Europe. On the vast, sun-scorched steppes of southern Russia, the German war machine, confident and seemingly invincible, launched its ambitious summer offensive, codenamed Vorblau, or Operation Blue. The primary objective was the rich oil fields of the Caucasus, a prize that would fuel the Third Reich's continued conquest. To secure the northern flank of this massive advance, the city of Stalingrad, a major industrial hub sprawling along the western bank of the mighty Volga River, was marked for capture. The city was more than a strategic asset. It was a symbol, bearing the name of the Soviet Union's iron-willed leader, Joseph Stalin, making its seizure a significant propaganda victory. The initial phase of the German assault commenced on a sweltering day in late August, as the Sixth Army, under the command of General Friedrich Paulus, began its relentless push towards the city. By August 23rd, the German vanguard had clawed its way to the northern suburbs, a grim prelude to the horrors that would soon unfold. The Luftwaffe, Germany's formidable air force, unleashed a merciless bombing campaign, wave after wave of bombers darkening the skies. The city was systematically reduced to a skeletal landscape of rubble and twisted metal, the once proud buildings now hollowed-out shells. The relentless aerial bombardment sent plumes of black smoke billowing into the sky, a suffocating shroud that choked the air and cast a perpetual twilight over the doomed city. The fighting on the ground quickly degenerated into a brutal, intimate form of warfare, a desperate struggle for every street, every building, every room. This was Rattenkrieg, the Rat War, a term coined by the German soldiers themselves to describe the savage, close-quarters combat that took place in the labyrinthine ruins. Soldiers fought with rifles, machine guns, grenades, and even sharpened shovels in the claustrophobic confines of sewers, basements, and shattered factories. The city's central grain elevator, a towering concrete silo, became a fortress, changing hands multiple times in a single day as both sides poured men and resources into its capture. The Red October tractor factory, a sprawling industrial complex, was transformed into a bloody battlefield, the roar of machinery replaced by the deafening cacophony of war. Despite the overwhelming German firepower and the seemingly unstoppable advance, the Soviet 62nd Army, commanded by the indomitable General Vasily Zhukov, refused to yield. Zhukov, a man forged in the crucible of the Russian Civil War, understood that to retreat was to perish. He established his headquarters on the west bank of the Volga, a stone's throw from the front lines, sharing the same dangers as his men. His leadership, a mixture of tactical brilliance and sheer grit, inspired a fanatical resistance. Stalin, from his Kremlin office hundreds of miles away, issued the now infamous Order No. 227, a stark and brutal decree: not one step back. The order was enforced with ruthless efficiency by political commissars and blocking detachments, who were authorized to shoot any soldier who attempted to retreat. The city's civilian population, including women and children, were forbidden from evacuating, their presence intended to stiffen the resolve of the defenders. They dug trenches, built fortifications, and tended to the wounded, their suffering a constant, silent testament to the city's agony. The Volga River, the city's lifeline, became a perilous artery of supply and reinforcement. Soviet troops and equipment were ferried across the river under the constant threat of German artillery and air attack. The water, churned by explosions and stained with blood, became a graveyard for countless soldiers and vessels. As autumn painted the steppes in hues of gold and ochre, the German advance slowed to a crawl, bogged down in the city's tenacious defense. The first snowflakes of the Russian winter, a harbinger of the doom to come, began to fall in early November, a delicate, almost mocking counterpoint to the ugliness of the war. The German soldiers, clad in their summer uniforms, were ill-prepared for the brutal cold that would soon descend upon them. On November 19th, 1942, the tide of the battle, and indeed the war, began to turn. The Soviet High Command, under the direction of General Georgy Zhukov, unleashed a massive counteroffensive codenamed Operation Uranus. The operation was a masterstroke of strategic planning, a classic pincer movement aimed not at the heavily fortified German positions in the city itself, but at the weaker Romanian and Hungarian armies protecting the Sixth Army's exposed flanks. Two powerful Soviet pincers, one from the north and the south, smashed through the Romanian and Hungarian lines with surprising ease. The Axis satellite troops, poorly equipped and demoralized, were no match for the Soviet onslaught. Within a matter of days, the two Soviet pincers met at the town of Kalak, west of Stalingrad. Snapping shut the jaws of a massive trap. The German Sixth Army, numbering some 300,000 men, was completely encircled, cut off from all sources of supply and reinforcement. The hunters had become the hunted. Hitler, in his distant headquarters, forbade Paulus from attempting a breakout, assuring him that the Luftwaffe would supply the trapped army by air. The promised air bridge, however, proved to be a dismal failure. The Luftwaffe, hampered by the harsh winter weather and the relentless attacks of the Soviet Air Force, was unable to deliver the vast quantities of food, fuel and ammunition required to sustain the encircled army. The German soldiers, trapped in the frozen cauldron of Stalingrad, began to starve. Their daily rations were reduced to a few ounces of bread, their bodies racked by hunger and disease. The bitter Russian winter, with its sub-zero temperatures and biting winds, took a terrible toll. Frostbite and hypothermia became as deadly as Soviet bullets. The once proud German soldiers were reduced to skeletal figures, their uniforms tattered, their faces itched with despair. In December, the German High Command launched a desperate relief effort, Operation Winter Storm, an attempt to break through the Soviet encirclement and rescue the trapped Sixth Army. The relief force, commanded by Field Marshal Erich von Manstein, made initial progress but was ultimately halted by stiff Soviet resistance, its spearhead still miles from the desperate, starving men it was meant to save. The failure of Operation Winter Storm sealed the fate of the Sixth Army. As the new year of 1943 dawned, the situation inside the Stalingrad pocket became utterly hopeless. The remaining German soldiers, huddled in their frozen trenches and ruined basements, were at the end of their endurance. On January 31st, 1943, Field Marshal Paulus, recently promoted by Hitler in a cynical attempt to ensure he would not surrender, defied the Führer's orders and capitulated. The remnants of the once mighty Sixth Army, a frozen, starving, and defeated force, laid down their arms. The Battle of Stalingrad was over. The Soviet victory, achieved at an almost unimaginable cost, was a decisive turning point in the Second World War. The myth of German invincibility was shattered forever. The road to Berlin, though still long and bloody, was now opened. The victory at Stalingrad not only halted the German advance into the Soviet Union, but also allowed the Red Army to seize the strategic initiative, an advantage they would maintain for the remainder of the war. The immense losses in men and materials suffered by the Wehrmacht were irreplaceable, a gaping wound that would bleed the German war effort dry. The defeat was also a devastating blow to German morale, the first time the Nazi regime was forced to publicly acknowledge a major failure in the war. For the Soviet Union, the victory at Stalingrad became a powerful symbol of national resilience and sacrifice, testament to the courage and determination of its people. The city, though reduced to rubble, had become a monument to their indomitable spirit. The battle had been a crucible, a fiery test of will and endurance, and the Soviet Union had emerged from it victorious, its spirit unbroken. The echoes of Stalingrad would reverberate throughout the remainder of the war, a constant reminder of the turning of the tide on the Eastern Front. The German soldiers who surrendered at Stalingrad faced a grim fate. Of the more than 90,000 men who were marched off to Soviet prison camps, only a handful would ever see their homeland again. The battle was a human tragedy of epic proportions, a stark and brutal reminder of the true cost of war. The city of Stalingrad, later renamed Volgograd, would be rebuilt from the ashes, a modern city rising from the ruins of its past. But the memory of the battle, the ghosts of the fallen, would forever haunt its streets and squares. The battle was a testament to the folly of hubris, the arrogance of a regime that believed itself invincible. It was a lesson written in blood and steel, a warning to all who would underestimate the power of human resilience in the face of tyranny. The Battle of Stalingrad was more than just a military engagement. It was a clash of ideologies, a struggle for the very soul of a nation. It was a battle that would define a generation and shape the course of the 20th century. The world watched in awe and horror as the drama of Stalingrad unfolded, a titanic struggle that would determine the fate of nations. The victory was a beacon of hope for the Allied cause, a sign that the tide of the war was finally turning against the Axis powers. The battle was a symphony of destruction, a cacophony of sound and fury that would echo through the annals of history. The courage of the Soviet defenders, their willingness to fight and die for every inch of their city, became a legend. The battle was a testament to the importance of logistics, the vital role of supply and reinforcement in modern warfare. The failure of the German air bridge was a critical factor in the Sixth Army's demise. The battle was a brutal lesson in the realities of urban warfare, the unique challenges of fighting in a built-up environment. The battle was a turning point, not only in a military sense, but also in a psychological one. It shattered the aura of invincibility that had surrounded the German army. The battle was a story of human suffering on an almost unimaginable scale, a testament to the depths of depravity to which humanity can sink in times of war. The battle was also a story of human courage and resilience, a testament to the indomitable spirit of those who refuse to be broken. The battle was a pivotal moment in the history of the 20th century, a moment that would have far-reaching consequences for the future of Europe and the world. The battle was a stark reminder of the fragility of peace and the ever-present danger of war. The battle was a story that would be told and retold for generations to come, a cautionary tale of the dangers of ambition and the price of freedom. The battle was a defining moment for the Soviet Union, a moment that would forge its national identity for decades to come. The battle was a turning point in the war on the Eastern Front, the beginning of the long and bloody road to Berlin. The battle was a testament to the courage and sacrifice of the millions of men and women who fought and died in the Second World War. The battle was a story of a city that refused to die, a city that rose from the ashes to become a symbol of hope and resilience. The battle was a moment in time that would forever be etched in the memory of humanity, a moment when the fate of the world hung in the balance. The battle was a turning point, a moment when the tide of history shifted, and the world was set on a new and uncertain course. The battle was a story of two dictators, Hitler and Stalin, whose clash of wills would determine the fate of millions. The battle was a story of ordinary people caught up in extraordinary events, their lives forever changed by the crucible of war. The battle was a story of a river, the Volga, that became a lifeline and a graveyard, a symbol of both hope and despair. The battle was a story of a winter, a brutal and unforgiving winter, that became a powerful ally for the Soviet defenders. The battle was a story of a city that became a fortress, a symbol of defiance in the face of overwhelming odds. The battle was a story of a surrender that marked the beginning of the end for the German war machine. The battle was the story of a victory that came at a terrible price, but a victory that would change the course of history. The battle was a story of a legacy of courage, sacrifice, and resilience that would inspire generations to come. The battle was a story of a memory that would serve as a constant reminder of the horrors of war and the importance of peace. The battle was a story that would never be forgotten, a story that would forever be a part of the human experience. The battle was a story of a turning point, a moment when the world held its breath, and the future was rewritten. The battle was a story of a city that became a symbol of the indomitable spirit of a nation. The battle was a story of a defeat that was more than just a military loss. It was a moral and psychological blow from which the Third Reich would never recover. The battle was a story of a victory that was more than just a military triumph. It was a testament to the power of human will and the enduring spirit of freedom. The battle was a story of a war that was more than just a conflict between nations. It was a struggle for the very future of humanity. The battle was a story that began in the heat of summer and ended in the depths of winter. A story of fire and ice, of hope and despair. The battle was a story of a city that was reduced to rubble but never broken. A city whose spirit rose from the ashes to inspire a nation. The battle was a story of a river that flowed with blood, but also with hope. A river that carried the promise of a new day. The battle was a story of a winter that froze the bodies of men, but could not freeze their spirits. A winter that became a symbol of their endurance. The battle was a story of a surrender that was not an end, but a beginning. The beginning of the end for a tyrannical regime. The battle was a story of a victory that was not just for one nation, but for all of humanity. A victory for freedom and justice. The battle was a story of a legacy that is not just about the past, but also about the future. A legacy that reminds us of the price of freedom and the importance of peace. The battle was a story of a memory that is not just a collection of facts, but a living testament to the human spirit. A memory that will continue to inspire and guide us for generations to come. The battle was a story that is not just about war, but also about peace. A story that reminds us that even in the darkest of times, the human spirit can triumph. The battle was a story that is not just about death, but also about life. A story that reminds us that even in the face of destruction, new life can emerge. The battle was a story that is not just about a city, but about the world. A story that reminds us that we are all connected and that the fate of one can affect the fate of all. The battle was a story that is not just about the past, but also about the present. A story that reminds us that the struggles of the past can teach us valuable lessons for the present. The battle was a story that is not just about history, but also about the future. A story that reminds us that the choices we make today will shape the world of tomorrow. The battle was a story that will continue to be told as long as there are people who value freedom and justice. A story that will forever be a part of our collective memory. The battle was a story of a turning point, a moment when the world changed forever. And the course of history was altered in ways that we are still trying to understand. The battle was a story of a city that became a legend that will continue to inspire and captivate us for generations to come. The battle was a story of a defeat that was a victory. A victory for the human spirit in the face of unimaginable adversity. The battle was a story of a victory that was a beginning. The beginning of a new era of hope and possibility for a world that had been torn apart by a war. The battle was a story of a war that was a lesson that we must never forget if we are to avoid repeating the mistakes of the past. The battle was a story that is our story. A story that reminds us of who we are and what we are capable of, both for good and for ill. The battle was a story that is still being written, A story that we are all a part of. And a story whose ending is still up to us to decide. The battle was a story of a city that became a symbol of defiance. A symbol that would inspire resistance movements across occupied Europe. The battle was a story of a general, Kuikov, who became a hero who embodied the spirit of his city and his people. The battle was a story of a soldier, the unknown soldier, whose courage and sacrifice would never be forgotten. The battle was a story of a people, the Soviet people, who endured unimaginable suffering to achieve a victory that would save their nation and the world. The battle was a story of a turning point, the turning point of the Second World War, the moment when the tide of war turned decisively against the forces of tyranny.